A hospital room in Manhattan. The year is 2023. An 86-year-old woman tries to speak, but the words won't come. Her brain sends the commands, but her body doesn't respond. Roberta Flack, owner of one of the most recognizable voices of the 20th century, has lost the ability to sing. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis has silenced the instrument that made her immortal. The city lights flicker outside, indifferent. Inside, the silence weighs heavier than any note ever sung. But this isn't a story about an ending. It's the story of how that voice came to be. How a girl born into segregation became the first artist to win the Grammy for Record of the Year 2 years in a row. How she killed a song to give it eternal life. How she defied her own producer and changed the rules of popular music. How she loved, lost, and kept going when the world expected her to break. This is the story of Roberta Flack, and it begins long before the world knew her name. February 10, 1937. In a small wooden house in Black Mountain, North Carolina, Roberta Cleopatra Flack is born. The world that receives her is divided by invisible but deadly lines. Water fountains have signs that red, white, and colored. Buses have separate sections. The South breathes the thick air of Jim Crow. Her father, Laron Leroy Flack, is a church organist with calloused hands and dreams too big for Black Mountain. Her mother, Irene, has a voice that makes the stained glass windows of the Baptist church tremble every Sunday. Music isn't a hobby in this house. It's the language. It's the air they breathe. When Roberta is just a few months old, the family makes a decision that will change everything. They pack up what little they own and move up north to Arlington, Virginia. It's not paradise, but the segregation has wider cracks. There's room to breathe. There's room to dream. Arlington, Virginia, 1942. Roberta is 5 years old. In the living room of a modest house, an upright piano occupies a disproportionate amount of space. It is the family's most prized possession. Roberta sits on the bench, her feet not reaching the pedals. Her fingers search for the keys with primal curiosity. But it's not just ordinary curiosity. When she plays, something happens. The notes aren't random. There are patterns. There's intention. Her mother stops in the kitchen, the cloth in her hand forgotten. That 5-year-old girl is playing melodies by ear. Songs she's heard on the radio, in church, in her father's voice. No lessons. No sheet music. Just instinct. At 9 years old, Roberta receives her first formal piano instruction. Her progress isn't linear. It's exponential. What other students learn in months, she masters in weeks. Her teachers use words like prodigy and exceptional. But in the Flack household, this is simply the standard. Excellence isn't optional. It's the minimum. 1956. Roberta is 19 years old. She has received a full scholarship to study at Howard University, the prestigious historically Black institution in Washington, D.C. It is one of the brightest moments of her young life. The world is beginning to open up to her. And then his father dies. The blow is devastating. Laron had been more than a father. He had been his first music teacher, his first audience, his first believer. The house is filled with a silence unlike any other. It's a silence shaped like absence, a void where organ melodies once filled the air. But there's no time for prolonged mourning. The family needs money. Roberta's scholarship doesn't cover everything. Her mother works long hours, but it's not enough. So Roberta does what she knows how to do. She starts giving piano lessons. In the evenings, after her own classes at Howard. On weekends, any free time, she discovers something unexpected. She enjoys teaching. More than that, she's fascinated by it. The way she can see understanding light up in a student's eyes. The way she can take something complex and make it accessible. She's building something without even realizing it. A philosophy. A vocation. 1958. Roberta graduates from Howard University with honors in music education. She is 21 years old and has a clear plan. She doesn't dream of stages. She dreams of classrooms, of shaping young minds, of being the kind of teacher her father had been for her. She lands a job teaching music and English at Banneker Junior High School in Washington, D.C., then at Brown Junior High School in Northeast, D.C. Her students are mostly African American, from neighborhoods where opportunities are scarce and expectations are low. But Roberta doesn't lower her standards. She raises them. He arrives early. He stays late. He organizes choirs. He puts on musical productions. He discovers talents that other teachers have overlooked. In his classes, music is not just entertainment. It is dignity. It is expression. It is power. At night, to supplement her teacher's salary, Roberta began singing in small clubs in Washington. It wasn't ambition that drove her. It was practical necessity. But something happens in those tiny venues. When she sings, the room changes. Conversations stop. The waiters stop moving. There's something in her voice. An intimacy. A vulnerability that disarms. 1968. A Georgetown club called Mr. Henry's. It's a small place, exposed brick walls, dim lighting. Roberta is on her usual shift, sitting at the piano, singing to an audience of maybe 30 people. Most are more interested in their drinks than the music. But one man is listening. His name is Les McCann, an established jazz pianist. He's come by chance. He's waiting for a friend. But when Roberta starts to sing, everything else fades away. The way she phrased. The way she made every word matter. She wasn't trying to impress. She was simply being. McCann approaches her after the set. He tells her she's wasting her talent there. He says he knows someone at Atlantic Records who needs to hear her out. Roberta is skeptical. She's heard stories of empty promises. But McCann is persistent. He organizes an informal audition. He invites people from the industry to Mr. Henry's. Among them is Joel Dorn, a young producer at Atlantic Records with a unique ear. Dorn arrives expecting just another club singer. He leaves knowing he's just witnessed something strange. Something he can't explain but instinctively recognizes. In a few weeks, Roberta is signing with Atlantic Records. She's 31 years old, an age considered late for a debut in the music industry. But all that life experience, all that learning, all that refinement, is about to matter in ways no one can anticipate. Recording studio in New York, 1969. Roberta is recording her first album, simply titled First Take. The sessions are unlike anything the sound engineer has ever witnessed. Most artists need multiple takes. Adjustments. Corrections. Roberta records most of her songs in 1 or 2 takes. There's one song in particular, a folk ballad written by Ewan MacColl for a British television drama. It's called The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. It's a song that has already been recorded by other artists. A version has existed since 1962, but no one has paid much attention to it. Joel Dorn suggests Roberta try it. She sits down at the piano. She begins to play, and something happens. The song slows down. It stretches out. What MacColl wrote as a 3-minute piece, Roberta transforms into something entirely different. Her version lasts more than 5 minutes. It's intimate. It's erotic. It's like hearing a secret whispered in the dark. When she finishes singing, there is silence in the studio. No one knows what to say. It's beautiful. It's unique. It's completely non-commercial by the standards of 1969. The album First Take is released. It receives respectable reviews. Modest sales. The song, The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, goes unnoticed. Roberta continues teaching in the mornings and singing in the evenings. Life goes on. And then, 3 years later, a film director named Clint Eastwood hears the song. He's looking for music for his new film, a story of love and obsession called Play Misty for Me. When he hears Roberta's version of The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, he knows he's found what he needs. Eastwood places the song in the film's love scene. He lets it play in its entirety. More than 5 minutes of film dedicated to a single song. It's a risky decision. The film premieres in 1971, and everything changes. Spring of 1972. Radio stations across the United States begin receiving calls. Hundreds, then thousands of people asking about the same thing. That song from the Clint Eastwood movie. That voice. Who is it? Where can they get the record? Atlantic Records watches with growing surprise. First Take, an album they had written off 3 years earlier, begins to sell. Not modestly, exponentially. Copies fly off the shelves. Radio stations play The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face in constant rotation. And the more it's played, the more people want to hear it. By May 1972, the song reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It remained there for 6 weeks. 6 weeks in which Roberta Flack went from being a relatively unknown music teacher to a global cultural phenomenon. The album First Take sells over 1 million copies. Then 2 million. Roberta, who had been preparing her music lessons the week before, is now being recognized on the street. Interviews pile up. Concert offers come in from all over the country. Her life has exploded. March 1973. The Tennessee Theater in Nashville. The 15th Annual Grammy Awards. Roberta is nominated in several categories. She wears an elegant dress. Her afro is perfectly styled. She moves through the crowd of celebrities with a calmness that belies her nerves. When the Record of the Year category, the most prestigious award of the night, is announced, Roberta is up against giants. She's 28 years younger than Mahalia Jackson and is up against established artists. The competition is fierce. They open the envelope. The first time ever I saw your face, Roberta Flack. The applause is deafening. Roberta takes the stage. Her speech is brief, witty, and grateful. But there's something more in her eyes. An awareness. She knows this isn't luck. It's the culmination of years of discipline, of practice, of refinement, of all those students she taught, of all those nights in empty clubs, of that entire life lived before the world knew her name. The first time ever I saw your face also won Song of the Year. Two of the biggest awards of the night. Roberta is now officially one of America's biggest artists. 1973. Atlantic Records wants to capitalize on the momentum. They need a second album that can match the success of First Take. The pressure is immense. The music industry is full of stories of artists who had a huge hit and then disappeared. One-hit wonders. Fireworks that fizzle out. Roberta returns to the studio with quiet determination. She has carefully selected the songs. Among them is a ballad written by Charles Fox and Norman Gimbel for the film Killing Me Softly, originally named after a performance by folk singer Don McLean. Lori Lieberman had recorded the original version in 1972. But as had happened with The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, Roberta sees something in the song that others hadn't. The recording process for Killing Me Softly with his song is meticulous. Roberta doesn't rush. She works on every phrase, every inflection. The song is about a woman who listens to a singer and feels like he's telling her story, reading her life. It's meta. It's personal. It's universal. When Roberta's version is complete, it's clear that something special has happened. Her performance has a disarming vulnerability. She's not singing about someone else. She's singing about herself. About all of us. About that moment of recognition when art touches you so deeply it hurts. The single was released in January 1973. The reaction was immediate. Radio stations picked it up. The public responded with a fervor that equaled or surpassed that of The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. By February, it was climbing the charts. By April, it reached #1. Roberta Flack has done the impossible. She has matched her own massive success. Some critics are beginning to use a phrase that will be repeated for decades. Roberta doesn't sing songs. She kills them softly. She takes them, transforms them, makes them completely her own. The original versions become footnotes. What remains is Roberta's interpretation. Definitive. Unsurpassed. The Hollywood Palladium. The 16th Annual Grammy Awards. Roberta is nominated again. This time for Killing Me Softly with his song. The category is, once again, Record of the Year. There's skepticism in the industry. Surely he can't win 2 years in a row. That kind of thing doesn't happen. The Grammy for Record of the Year is too competitive, too unpredictable. Artists go through entire careers without ever winning it. Winning it twice in a row would be historic. The winner is announced. Killing Me Softly with his song, Roberta Flack. The place erupts. Roberta becomes the first artist in Grammy history to win Record of the Year in consecutive years. Not only that, the song also wins Song of the Year, exactly repeating what it had achieved the previous year. This is a moment that will redefine her career. Roberta Flack is no fluke. She's not a passing phenomenon. She's a force, an artist at the height of her powers, operating at a level few can reach. 1972. Before her second Grammys, Roberta is working on another project. Quincy Jones, the legendary producer, is organizing a tribute album and wants Roberta to collaborate with another Atlantic Records artist, a young singer named Donny Hathaway. Roberta and Donny know each other. They both studied at Howard University, though in different years. Hathaway is an explosive talent. He plays multiple instruments, has a powerful voice, and writes songs that combine soul, jazz, and gospel in innovative ways. But he is also tormented. He suffers from paranoid schizophrenia, though few know the depth of his struggle at this time. When Roberta and Donny begin working together, the chemistry is immediate. Their voices intertwine organically. There's an ease, a musical understanding that needs no words. They decide to record a full album together. Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway was released in 1972. The first single was Where Is the Love, written by Ralph MacDonald and William Salter. The song is a desperate question in a world that seems to be falling apart. Vietnam, race unrest, political disillusionment. Where's the love? The song reached the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. But more importantly, it became an anthem, a question that resonated far beyond its time. The album was a critical and commercial success. Roberta and Donny were hailed as the duo of the moment. 1974. Roberta is at the top. 2 consecutive Grammys. Record sales. Global recognition. But fame comes at a price that doesn't make the headlines. She's had to give up teaching, the job she loved, the one that gave her purpose beyond music. Touring is exhausting. Weeks on the road, identical hotels, cities that blur into one another. The music industry wants her constantly on the move, constantly producing, constantly visible. Her personal life becomes complicated. Her first marriage, to Steve Novosel, a fellow jazz musician, ends in divorce. Relationships are difficult when you're constantly under public scrutiny. When your time isn't your own. When every personal decision can become headline news. And then there's Donny Hathaway. His mental state is deteriorating. The episodes of paranoia are becoming more frequent, more severe. Sometimes he believes there are conspiracies against him, that the industry wants to destroy him. Roberta does what she can to support him, but it's not enough. No one can save him from his own mind. Despite this, the music goes on. Because when Donny is on form, when he's in the studio, he's still brilliant. And Roberta keeps pushing, exploring, refusing to be pigeonholed into a single sound or style. The question that begins to form, one that no one asks aloud but that everyone thinks, is simple and terrible. How long can this last? How long before something breaks? 1977. 3 years have passed since her second Grammy. Roberta has released several albums. Blue Lights in the Basement receives critical acclaim. She has experimented with different sounds, collaborated with various producers. But nothing has replicated the massive cultural impact of Killing Me Softly or The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. The music industry is brutal with expectations. When you've been at the top, anything below that level is perceived as a decline, even if you're still successful by any reasonable standard. Sales are still strong. Concerts are still selling out. But radio stations aren't hungry for new Roberta Flack like they were in 1973. Roberta faces a decision. She can desperately chase another massive hit, change her sound to fit the trends, become something she's not. Or she can continue making the music that matters to her, with the quality she demands of herself, and let the chips fall where they may. Choose the second option, but not without a price. The pressure from Atlantic Records is mounting. They want commercial singles. They want the next Killing Me Softly. They want guarantees that no artist can provide. January 13th, 1979. The phone rings at Roberta's house. It's early morning. Calls at this hour never bring good news. Donny Hathaway is dead. He jumped from the window of his room on the 15th floor of the Essex House Hotel in Manhattan. He was 33 years old. The world stops. Roberta can't process what she's hearing. Donny, with his infectious laughter. Donny, whose hands on the piano could bring a room full of strangers to tears. Donny, who had been her friend, her collaborator, her musical brother. The following days are a blur. The funeral, the whispered conversations about what could have been done, the guilt, the grief, the inability to accept that someone so full of life and talent is simply gone. Roberta realizes something amidst her grief. They had been planning to record another album together. They had talked about it weeks before his death. Donny was excited, or at least he seemed to be. But mental illness is insidious. It can hide behind smiles. It can lie. The album will never be made. The conversations will never end. All that remains are the records they made together. Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway from 1972. The Memoirs. The Unanswered Questions. 1980. Roberta returns to the studio. Not because she's ready, but because she doesn't know what else to do. Music has always been her language, her therapy, her way of making sense of chaos. She's working on new material. Atlantic Records is still pressuring her for hits. But there's a new sensibility in Roberta, a different kind of urgency. Donny's death has reminded her that time is finite. that opportunities evaporate, that artistic excellence matters more than the charts. Between sessions, Roberta discovers something, a recording Donny had made before he died. Unreleased material. The quality isn't perfect, but the performance is pure. It's Donny in his purest form, unfiltered, unartificial. Roberta makes a bold decision. She wants to complete that material. She wants to release a second duo album with Donny, using these recordings, adding her own voice, honoring what they started. It's a form of mourning. It's a way of closing a circle that death left open. November 1980. Roberta Flack featuring Donny Hathaway is released. The lead single is Back Together Again, an ironically and painfully fitting song given that Donny is no longer with us. But there's another song on the album. It's called The Closer I Get to You. It was written by James M. Toome and Reggie Lucas. It's a romantic, intimate ballad about the vulnerability of love deepening. The version with Donny is one of the last things he recorded before his death. The song becomes a hit. It reaches number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's a bittersweet moment. Vindication and tragedy intertwined. The public loves the song, but every time Roberta hears it, all she hears is absence. The reviews are universally positive. The album is seen as a beautiful and fitting tribute, but it's also seen as closure. The era of Roberta and Donny has ended, not by choice, but by fate. 1982. Popular music is changing. MTV launched the previous year, and now image matters as much as sound. Synthpop is booming. Michael Jackson is about to release Thriller and redefine what it means to be a superstar. Roberta Flack, with her focus on pure vocal performance and traditional musicality, is beginning to seem like a relic of another era. Not because her talent has diminished, but because the culture has moved on. Atlantic Records wants her to conform. They want her to work with trendy producers. They want synthesizers. They want flashy music videos. They want Roberta to be something she's not. She resists, not out of stubbornness, but out of integrity. She has seen too many artists chase trends and lose their identity in the process. She has seen careers self-destruct on the altar of commercial relevance. He released albums throughout the 80s. I'm the One in 1982. Born to Love, with Peabo Bryson in 1983. Sales were respectable, but not spectacular. Radio stations weren't as eager for airplay. Roberta finds herself in a strange limbo. Too established to be new. Too talented to be ignored. Too inexperienced to prostitute herself. It's an uncomfortable but honest place. Through it all, one thing remains constant. Roberta never stops being a teacher. She officially left the classroom in 1972, but teaching is in her DNA. He began working privately with young students. He gave masterclasses at universities. He established scholarships for music students. When he speaks in interviews, he doesn't just talk about his career. He talks about technique, about music theory, about the importance of formal education combined with personal expression. In 1986, she established the Roberta Flack School of Music Foundation in the Bronx. It wasn't just a symbolic gesture. She was actively involved. She reviewed curricula. She spoke with students. She attended recitals. For Roberta, this wasn't charity. It was a full circle. It was giving back to music what music had given her. The media barely covers this. It's not sexy. It doesn't sell records. But for the hundreds of students who go through the program, it's transformative. Many will pursue careers in music. Some will become teachers themselves. All will carry with them something of Roberta's philosophy. Uncompromising excellence. Art with purpose. 1989. Roberta is 52 years old. She has been in the music industry for 20 years. She has seen trends come and go. She has seen artists rise and fall. She has survived when many predicted her demise. But something haunts her. A question she can't shake. Will she ever have another moment like Killing Me Softly? Or were those years, 1972 to 1974, just her peak? Is everything else just an epilogue? It's a cruel question. One that many artists face, but few admit. Because admitting that your best work may be behind you is admitting mortality. It's admitting limitations. It's terribly human. Roberta doesn't have an answer. She only has music. She only has discipline. She only has the promise she made to herself decades ago. To make honest art. To teach when she can. To keep going. The 90s are approaching. A new century is dawning. And Roberta Flack, against all odds, is still here. Singing. Teaching. resisting. But the music industry is ruthless with those who don't adapt. And a different kind of storm is brewing. One that has nothing to do with trends or sales, but with something much more intimate and painful. A storm that will test not their talent, but their spirit. 1999. The world is obsessed with Y2K. There's a fear that computers will crash when the calendar changes to 2000. But Roberta has more down-to-earth worries. Her relationship with Atlantic Records has cooled. After nearly 30 years, the company that launched her to fame seems less interested in her artistic vision. The 90s were not kind to artists of her generation. Hip-hop and contemporary R&B dominate the airwaves. Roberta has released albums, but without the promotional support they require. She decides to take control. She starts working independently, selecting projects that interest her without the filter of record label executives. It's liberating and terrifying. Without a corporate machine behind her, everything depends on her. But Roberta discovers something. Her catalog, those songs she recorded decades ago, has a life of its own. Killing Me Softly is rediscovered by a new generation. The Fugees cover it in 1996, taking it back to #1. The version is different, rawer, with a hip-hop flow. But Roberta's name is still in the credits, and new listeners seek out the original. It's a different kind of success. It's not about being at the top of the charts. It's about immortality. It's about having created something that transcends its time. 2001. Roberta is working on an ambitious project. She wants to make an album that captures everything she's learned. 5 decades of life. 30 years in the industry. All the joys, the losses, the lessons. They don't have a record label. They don't have a massive budget. They only have their vision and a small team of loyal collaborators. They start recording in intermittent sessions. When there's money. When there's time. Without rushing. The process is unlike anything Roberta has ever experienced. In the 70s, Atlantic wanted products. Release dates. Singles. Now, no one is telling her what to do. She's completely free. And that freedom is dizzying. She chooses her songs carefully. Some are originals. Others are covers, but chosen for personal reasons. Each one means something. Each one tells part of her story. 2002. Roberta finds herself embroiled in a lawsuit against her former manager. She accuses him of embezzlement, of making financial decisions that harmed her, and of betraying her trust for years. The details are sordid. Contracts signed without their full knowledge. Royalties diverted. Questionable investments. It's the kind of story that repeats itself in the music industry. Artists who trust the wrong people, who are so focused on the art that they neglect the business. The legal process is exhausting. Depositions, documents, lawyers with their billable hours. Roberta has to relive years of her career, examine every decision, every contract. It's invasive. It's painful, but it's also eye-opening. It reveals how much of her success was built on foundations controlled by others. How much power she had unwittingly relinquished. It's a brutal lesson, one she wishes she hadn't had to learn. The case is eventually resolved. The details remain confidential. But the damage, both financial and emotional, is significant. Roberta emerges more cautious, more distrustful, more determined never to relinquish control again. 2004. The Library of Congress announces that Killing Me Softly with his song will be preserved in the National Recording Registry. It is an honor reserved for the most culturally significant recordings. Roberta's voice, that performance she gave 31 years ago, is now an official part of America's cultural heritage. It's a moment of profound validation. It's not a Grammy. It's not a #1 hit. It's something more permanent. It's the admission that what he created matters, that it will last. Roberta attends the ceremony in Washington, D.C., the city where she taught, where she sang in small clubs, where it all began. There's a poetic symmetry. She's traveled so far, yet somehow she's returned to the beginning. In his speech, he talks about Donny Hathaway, about his first manager, Les McCann, about his students, about everyone who contributed to his journey. He doesn't position himself as a lone genius. He positions himself as part of a community, of a tradition. It's genuine modesty, but it's also something deeper. It's an understanding that individual talent, however great, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in context, in conversation with others, in a chain of influence that extends backward and forward in time. 2009. After years of intermittent work, Roberta finally completes the album she began in 2001. It is titled Let It Be Roberta. Roberta Flack sings the Beatles. It's a personal project. The Beatles had been a formative influence. But more than that, their songs, interpreted through the lens of Roberta's experience, take on new meanings. Let It Be becomes an anthem of resilience. Hey Jude is a love letter to her younger self. The album is released independently. It doesn't have the marketing of a major label. It doesn't have videos on MTV. But the critics respond positively. Sales are modest but respectable. And something more important happens. The longtime fans, those who bought First Take in 1969, are still here. They're still interested. They're still listening. It's a reminder that a true career isn't about constant peaks. It's about longevity. It's about maintaining a connection with your audience across decades. About evolving without betraying yourself. 2010. Roberta is invited to give a masterclass at Howard University, her alma mater. She accepts immediately. Returning to Howard is returning to her roots. It's closing another circle. The auditorium is full. Music students, many not even born when Killing Me Softly dominated the airwaves. But they know the songs. They've studied them in their classes. They've heard them at their parents' houses. Roberta doesn't present herself as a legend. She presents herself as a teacher. She talks about vocal technique, about interpretation, about the importance of understanding the story behind a song, about how emotion without technique is chaos, but technique without emotion is empty. The students ask questions about her career, about her challenges, about how she maintained her integrity in an industry that constantly pressures for compromise. Her answers are honest, unfiltered, without the polish of media interviews. Finally, one of the students asks her to sing just one song. Roberta hesitates. She hasn't brought her band. There's no arrangement prepared, but there's a piano on stage. She sits down, places her hands on the keys, and sings The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. No elaborate amplification, no production, just her voice, the piano, and the acoustics of the auditorium. When it ends, there is silence. Then, thunderous applause. Many students have tears in their eyes. They have witnessed something they cannot fully articulate. Mastery, authenticity, human connection through art. Roberta leaves the stage knowing that this moment, invisible to the wider world, is as significant as any Grammy. Perhaps even more so. 2015. Roberta is 78 years old. Touring has become more difficult. Her voice, though still beautiful, shows signs of age. It doesn't have the range it once did. The power has diminished. It's the reality for any singer who lives long enough. But there's something more. Small symptoms she begins to notice. Occasional difficulty speaking. Fatigue that can't be explained by age alone. She visits doctors. They run tests. At first, there are no clear answers. Meanwhile, she continues working. She gives select concerts. She appears at special events. In 2016, she is honored at the Kennedy Center, one of the highest artistic awards in the United States. The ceremony is moving. Younger artists perform her songs. There are montages of her career, tears and laughter. But in private, the symptoms worsen. Speech becomes more labored. Fatigue increases. The doctors eventually arrive at a diagnosis. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. ALS. The same disease that killed Lou Gehrig. The same one that has silenced so many. There is no cure. Only symptom management. Only the slow progression of paralysis. Roberta receives the news with the same stoic calm with which she has faced everything else. It is not denial. It is acceptance. It is understanding that this is the next battle. And like all the previous battles, she will face it with dignity. But there is a cruel difference. This battle cannot be won. It can only be fought. It can only be endured. And eventually, inevitably, it will be lost. 2017. Roberta decides to go public with her ALS diagnosis. It's not easy. The disease is progressive, relentless. It attacks motor neurons, leaving the mind intact while the body fails. Her team drafts a statement. It's direct. No unnecessary drama. It informs everyone that Roberta has been diagnosed with ALS, that she will continue working as long as she can, and that she is grateful for the support of her fans. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Messages from all over the world. From fans who grew up listening to her music. From artists who were influenced by her. From students who took her classes decades ago. The love is tangible. It's comforting. It's not enough to change what's coming. Roberta makes public appearances when she can. In 2018, she attends the premiere of a documentary about her life titled Roberta. The cameras capture her presence. She is thinner. She moves more carefully. But her smile is genuine. Her spirit, unbreakable. In the interviews for the documentary, she speaks not only of her successes, but also of her struggles, of the racism she faced, of the misogyny in the music industry, of the financial battles, of the loss of Donny. It's a life story told without sugarcoating. Raw, honest. 2019. Roberta knows her time to perform is limited. Every concert could be her last. ALS is unpredictable in its progression. Some patients decline rapidly. Others live for years. There's no way to know. She organizes a series of farewell concerts. She doesn't call them that publicly, but everyone understands what they are. Tickets sell out in minutes. People want one last chance to see her, to hear her, to be in the same room with someone who defined an era. The concerts are moving. Roberta sings sitting down, conserving her energy. Her voice has lost some power, but the performance remains profound. Every phrase is laden with meaning. Each song feels like both a farewell and a celebration simultaneously. Between songs, she speaks to the audience. She shares stories. She expresses gratitude. She doesn't mention the illness directly, but it's present in the subtext, in the visible fragility, in the shared awareness that this is finite. When she sings "Killing Me Softly," there's a reverential silence. Thousands of people hold their breath. It's impossible not to think about the cruel irony of the title. This song, which speaks of being killed softly by music, is now sung by someone being killed softly by her own body. The last formal concert is at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, the legendary venue where so many Black artists found their voice. Roberta is home. At the end of the show, the applause lasts almost 10 minutes. The audience is on its feet. Many are openly weeping. Roberta says goodbye gracefully. There's no drama, no long speech, only gratitude, only love, only the awareness that what remains now are the recordings, the memories, the legacy. 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has the world in lockdown. Roberta is in strict quarantine. For someone with ALS, COVID would almost certainly be fatal. She cannot risk exposure. The months of isolation are difficult, not just physically, but emotionally as well. Being confined when your body is already confining you is a double prison. But Roberta finds ways to stay connected. Video calls with friends, virtual sessions with students, small moments of normalcy in a world that has become strange for everyone. His speech deteriorates significantly. Words require a Herculean effort. Eventually, writing becomes easier than speaking. Then, writing also becomes difficult. His hands no longer obey as they once did. Music, which was always her primary language, is now out of reach. She can't sing. She can't play the piano. She can only listen. It's a particular kind of torture for someone who spent her life creating sound, to be reduced to a passive consumer. But something remains. His mind is intact. His memories, vivid. He can recall every detail of those recording sessions in 1969. He can hear Donny's voice as if he were in the room. He can feel the piano keys beneath his fingers, even though those fingers no longer respond. It is both a blessing and a curse. The full awareness of all that has been lost. The inability to do anything about it. 2021. Although Roberta cannot appear publicly, the honors keep coming. She is inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Her contribution to American music is formally recognized once again. The organizers want her to attend virtually. Roberta is reluctant. She doesn't want people to see her like that, frail, dependent. But her family convinces her. This recognition isn't just for her. It's for everyone who was inspired by her work. She appears briefly on screen. She can't speak, but her presence is enough. The other honorees dedicate their words to her. They speak of her influence, of how she changed the landscape of popular music, of how she opened doors for Black artists, especially women. It's a reminder that a legacy isn't just the songs you leave behind. It's how you change the industry, how you inspire the next generation, how you show that excellence is non-negotiable. 2022. Behind every person with ALS is a network of caregivers. For Roberta, it's her family, her close friends, and dedicated medical staff. They are invisible to the public, but they are the ones who make each day possible. ALS is demanding. It requires assistance with everything. Eating, bathing, moving. Every basic bodily function becomes a production that requires help. It's humiliating. It's necessary. It's the reality. The caregivers are patient, respectful. They treat Roberta with the dignity she deserves. Not as a patient, as a person, as the artist she is, as the teacher she was, as the complex human being she continues to be, even when her body betrays her. There are moments of humor, small victories, good days when the progression seems to stop. But they are temporary. The disease doesn't stop. It only pauses before gaining more ground. 2023. Roberta can't sing, but her music sings for her. All over the world, Killing Me Softly is playing on radio, streaming playlists, in movies, and on television. New generations are discovering her. For them, Roberta Flack isn't an 86-year-old woman battling ALS. She's a timeless voice. She's emotion crystallized into sound. The royalties keep coming in. Every play, every use, every cover. It's a steady stream that ensures Roberta's financial security. The legal battles of decades past are settled. Her estate is protected. It's a small measure of justice amidst the injustice of illness. Contemporary artists continue to cite her as an influence. Beyoncé, Alicia Keys, Lauryn Hill. When they give interviews, they mention how Killing Me Softly changed their understanding of what a song could be. How vocal performance could transform familiar material into something transcendent. It is immortality of a particular kind. Not physical, artistic. The voice recorded in 1972 will never age. It will never become ill. It will exist as long as the technology to reproduce it exists. Long after the body that produced it has ceased to function. Late 2023. Roberta is at home, surrounded by photographs of an extraordinary life. Awards on shelves. Photos with presidents, with other legendary musicians, with smiling students. Each image tells a story. If I could speak, what would I say? That it was worth it? That the price of fame was fair? That I would do everything differently? That I wouldn't change a thing? The truth is probably more complicated. A life doesn't boil down to a simple verdict. There were moments of pure ecstasy. The applause after a flawless performance. The moment a song finally clicks in the studio. The look of understanding on a student's face. There was pain, too. The loss of Donny. The divorces. The financial battles. The price of maintaining integrity in an industry designed to corrupt it. And now this. The prison of her own body. But perhaps that's the wrong question. It's not about whether it was worth it. It's about the fact that it happened. Roberta Flack's life happened. It impacted millions. It changed music. It educated generations. It proved that Black excellence doesn't need to apologize. That vulnerability can be strength. That gently killing a song can be the most powerful act of all. The answers don't matter as much as the questions. And the question Roberta Flack posed with her life is simple yet profound. What does it mean to create art that endures? What does it mean to live with integrity in a world that constantly demands compromise? What does it mean to be a teacher when you could simply be a star? The answer lies in the recordings, in the students who became teachers, in the doors he opened, in the voice that, though silenced by illness, continues to speak through decades of immortal music. And that voice, trapped on vinyl and digital, will continue to kill softly long after the final silence arrives. 2024. The music world celebrates the 52nd anniversary of Killing Me Softly. Themed playlists appear on every streaming platform. Critics write retrospectives. Podcasts dedicate entire episodes to analyzing why that song, that specific performance, continues to resonate. Roberta cannot participate in the celebrations. Her condition has stabilized at a painful point. She is not improving. She is not rapidly deteriorating. She exists in a state of suspension, aware of everything, but unable to express herself as she used to. His family organizes a small gathering. Close friends, some of his former students, now established musicians in their own careers. They play Killing Me Softly on the old sound system. The original version. The one that changed everything. When the song plays, something happens in the room. It's not simple nostalgia. It's a collective recognition that they are in the presence of something extraordinary. A work of art that achieved the almost impossible, to transcend its time, to speak to generations that weren't even born when it was created. Roberta listens from her chair. Her eyes are closed. Is she remembering the recording session? The studio in New York? The decisions she made? How she lengthened the phrases? How she found those spaces between the notes where emotion resides? No one can ask her, but it's not necessary. The song speaks for her. It always has. Among the visitors is a 63-year-old man named Marcus. He was a student of Roberta's at Brown Junior High School in 1962. Just a boy then. Now he is the director of the music department at a high school in Baltimore. Marcus sits near Roberta. He takes her hand gently. He speaks to her, though she cannot respond. He tells her that he still uses the vocal technique exercises she taught him more than 60 years ago, that he has passed those exercises on to hundreds of his own students, that the lineage continues. He tells her about a particular student, a girl named Jasmine from a troubled family. No resources, no apparent hope, but with a voice. Marcus saw in Jasmine what Roberta had seen in him decades ago. Potential. Possibility. Jasmine is now at Berklee College of Music on a full scholarship, studying music production and building her own future. And when Marcus asked her what inspired her to pursue this path, Jasmine mentioned a song, "The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face," the Roberta Flack version. The circle completes itself in ways no one can predict. A teacher inspires a student. That student becomes a teacher. They inspire another student. That student is touched by the art of the original teacher. The pattern replicates, expands, and continues. 2024. A panel at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The topic is Women Who Changed Music. Among the names discussed are Aretha Franklin, Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, and Roberta Flack. The panelists, musicologists, and contemporary artists analyze her impact. They discuss how she defied expectations of what a black singer could be in the 1970s. She wasn't just soul. She wasn't just jazz. She wasn't just folk. She was all of those things and none of them. She was simply Roberta. They mention his insistence on quality over commercial appeal. How that was almost commercially suicidal, but turned out to be his greatest strength. How his recordings aged better than those of artists who chased trends. One panelist, a 35-year-old musicologist, makes a keen observation. Roberta Flack proved that you can be commercially successful without compromising artistic integrity. But she also proved that that success comes on your terms, in your time. You can't force it. You can only prepare for when it arrives. It's a lesson the contemporary music industry is struggling to learn. In the age of streaming, artificial virality, and algorithms, there's constant pressure for content, for volume, for constant presence. The idea of taking time, of perfecting, of waiting for the right moment, seems archaic. But the songs that remain, that transcend generations, almost always come from that place of patience and precision that Roberta exemplified. A documentary filmmaker named Antonino D'Ambrosio has been working on an expanded project about Roberta. He started in 2018, but illness complicated everything. Now, in 2024, he is finishing the work. He has interviewed more than 100 people, musicians, students, producers, critics, historians. He has delved into archives. He has found rare recordings. He has constructed a comprehensive portrait of an extraordinary life. But there's a problem. He can't interview the protagonist. He can't get her current reflections on her career, her life, her legacy. He has old recordings, of course, interviews from decades past, but not the final perspective, not the closure. D'Ambrosio grapples with this. How do you end a documentary about someone whose story isn't over yet? Someone who is alive but unable to speak. It's an artistic and ethical dilemma. He decides that the documentary will end not with answers, but with questions, with the mystery that is any human life, even one as public as Roberta Flack's, perhaps especially one as public, because the public persona is only a fraction of the whole person. In a music history class at UCLA, a professor named Dr. Samantha Chun is teaching about 1970s soul music. She plays Killing Me Softly for 19 and 20-year-old students. Many have heard it before, in movies, in commercials, in their parents' playlists, but they've never truly listened to it. Not like this, not with complete attention, not in the context of understanding what made it revolutionary. Dr. Chin pauses the song at specific moments. He points out the interpretive choices, how Roberta stretches out certain words, how she uses silence, how her voice sounds simultaneously strong and fragile, How every element of the production serves emotion, not ego. A student raises his hand. Why isn't there music like this now? The question is naive, but honest. Dr. Chin smiles. There is music like that, but it requires you to seek it out. It requires you to value depth over virality. It requires patience, from both the artist and the listener. And we live in a culture that doesn't reward patience. It's a response the students silently process. Some will open Spotify that night and search for the entire album first take. Some will fall down the rabbit hole of Roberta's discography. Some will become lifelong fans of a woman they'll never see perform live. This is the kind of immortality that matters. Not trending topics. Genuine discovery. Real connection. In Roberta's house, there's a box. It contains letters. Hundreds of them. From fans all over the world. Some are recent, sent after her diagnosis became public. Others are old, yellowed, from the 70s and 80s. Her family reads some of them aloud during visits. Stories of how Roberta's music impacted lives. A letter from a woman in Japan who listened to The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face while giving birth to her daughter. The music gave her the strength to keep pushing. A letter from a man in South Africa who first heard Killing Me Softly on an underground radio station during apartheid. The song became a symbol of quiet resistance, of beauty amidst oppression. A letter from a teenage girl in California in 1998. She had just come out to her parents. They rejected her. She felt completely alone. She heard Feel Like Making Love, and something about the way Roberta sang about desire, about longing, made her feel less broken. These letters aren't about fame. They're about human connection, about how art can reach across time and space and touch someone exactly when they need it most. Roberta can't read the letters now, but her family believes she hears them, that she understands, that she knows her work mattered in ways that transcend charts and awards. It's late at night. The house is quiet. The caregivers have left. Only one family member remains. Roberta is asleep, or appears to be. The person sits in the dim light and thinks about a question that no one asks in interviews, documentaries, or panels. A simple but impossible question. Is Roberta happy? Was he happy? That can be inferred from the stories, from the captured moments. Clearly there was happiness, joy, satisfaction, also pain, loss, struggle. But now, in this moment, trapped in a body that doesn't work, with a mind that remembers everything it could do and can't anymore. Is there happiness? Or just resignation? Or something more complex that has no name? No one can ask. And even if they could, perhaps they shouldn't. Some territories of the human soul are too private to be invaded, even with the best intentions. What is clear is this: Roberta Flack lived a life of meaning. She created art that will endure long after she is gone. She educated hundreds of students. She inspired millions. She broke barriers. She maintained her integrity. Whether that equates to happiness, only she can know. And that knowledge remains locked behind the silence imposed by her illness. But the legacy continues to speak. And in that speaking, there is its own form of response. 2025. The Roberta Flack School of Music in the Bronx celebrates its 39th anniversary. The building has been renovated multiple times, the equipment updated, but the mission remains the same as when it was founded: to provide quality music education to students from underserved communities. The current director, a woman named Patricia who studied with Roberta in the 1980s, is organizing a special ceremony. Former students of the program have been invited. Some have gone on to successful musical careers. Others have become teachers, music therapists, or producers. Not all of them are famous. Not all of them need to be. What they share is a common language, a philosophy instilled by the program Roberta created: excellence without excuses, music as dignity, education as liberation. Patricia reads a letter she wrote to Roberta, knowing she'll probably never read it, but needing to write it anyway. You taught us that talent without discipline is waste. That discipline without heart is emptiness. That true art requires both. Every day, we teach what you taught us. The line continues. They play a recording of Roberta from the 70s. Not a song. A masterclass where she explained vocal technique. Her voice, clear and strong, fills the auditorium. For a moment, it's as if she were there. Still teaching. Still guiding. Still believing that music can change lives. Because he does. He did. He will. In 2025, Killing Me Softly with his song, was still being downloaded, streamed, and shared. Statistics are difficult to track completely, but estimates suggest the song has been played over 2 billion times across various platforms since the beginning of the streaming era. 2 billion times. A person singing a song in 1972, and that performance being played 2 billion times. It's a kind of immortality the Egyptian pharaohs would have envied. But the numbers don't capture the true impact. They don't capture the moment someone hears the song during a breakup and feels less alone. They don't capture when a father plays it for his daughter and says, "This was the music of my time." They don't capture when a young musician studies it, trying to understand how to achieve that emotional depth. The song now exists in a timeless space. It's not from 1972. It's not from the 1920s. It simply is. It exists outside of time. Available anytime. To anyone. Forever. Or at least as long as digital civilization lasts. Throughout 2025, several institutions prepared additional honors for Roberta. There were discussions about naming a theater in her honor and about creating a permanent exhibit at the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. These honors are being planned with care and sensitivity. Everyone is aware that Roberta is alive. No one wants it to feel like a premature obituary. But they also understand that these recognitions take time, and that it's best to begin while she can still know they are happening. Her family is discreetly consulting with doctors, with those who know her best. Is that appropriate? Or is it morbid? The consensus is that Roberta would understand. She dedicated her life to art and education. These honors ensure that her work continues, that future generations know her name, and that her contribution is properly documented. It's not vanity. It's archiving. It's historical preservation. It's ensuring that the narrative of American music fully includes those who shaped it. A spring day. Roberta's bedroom window is open. Warm air drifts in. Birds are singing outside. The world is alive in a way her body can no longer be. An old friend is visiting. Someone who knew her before fame. Before the Grammys. Before Roberta Flack became a globally recognized name. When she was just Roberta. Teacher. Friend. Dreamer. His friend speaks to him. No response is required. Just company. He remembers when they used to have coffee after class. When Roberta spoke about her students with such passion. When music was uncomplicated joy. Before lawyers and contracts and the industry complicated everything. Do you know what you told me once? The friend asks, even though he knows Roberta can't answer. You told me that if you could touch one life through your music, if just one person felt less alone because they heard your voice, then all the struggle would be worth it. The friend pauses. There are tears. You touched millions of lives, Roberta. Millions. And you will continue to touch them long after we are all gone. Do you understand that? Can you grasp the magnitude of what you accomplished? There is no answer. Only the sound of breathing. The birds singing. The distant hum of New York traffic. But perhaps no answer is needed. Perhaps some achievements speak for themselves. There is a cruel paradox in Roberta's condition. A woman whose voice was her identity, her power, her art, now silenced. It is the kind of irony Shakespeare would have appreciated. Tragic. Perfect. Terrible. But there's another way to look at it. Roberta spent decades using her voice. Singing. Teaching. Advocating. Speaking. Her voice is recorded in hundreds of hours of material. On records. In interviews. In lectures. In documentaries. That voice will never be silenced. Not truly. It exists in digital files that can be played endlessly. It exists in the memories of those who heard it live. It exists in the techniques it taught that are now being taught to others. The current silence is only from a particular body at a particular moment. The voice, the true voice, the essence of what Roberta Flack contributed to the world, that will continue to speak. It's a cold consolation, but it's consolation nonetheless. What the public doesn't see are the small moments. The way Roberta's family plays their music. Softly. In the background. Not all the time. Not aggressively. Just occasionally. Gentle reminders. Sometimes, when the first time ever I saw your face plays, something changes in Roberta. A subtle change in expression. Doctors would say it's coincidence. That it's projection by observers. That there's no evidence she can process the music at this point. But her family chooses to believe differently. They believe that something within her recognizes those sounds. That there is muscle memory in the soul. That the music that lived within her for so many decades cannot be completely erased by any illness. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe it doesn't matter. The act of playing the music is for them too. It's a way of maintaining a connection, of honoring who he was, who he still is, in the ways that matter. No one says it out loud, but everyone knows. ALS is terminal. The end isn't a question of if. It's a question of when. The doctors speak in careful terms. Quality of life, comfort, dignity. These are conversations no family wants to have. But Roberta's family has had to. Decisions have been made. Documents signed. Wishes respected. Roberta, in the years before illness robbed her of the ability to communicate, had been clear about what she wanted, how she wanted to be remembered, what should be done when the time came. Now it's just a matter of waiting, of providing care, of being present, of making sure she's not alone, that she's surrounded by love until the very end. It's the only thing anyone can do. That's all. It's insufficient. That's all we have. And while we wait, while the world continues to wonder how much longer we have, the music keeps playing. On taxi radios in Cairo, on gym playlists in Sydney, in music classes in Sao Paulo, in someone's kitchen in Kansas City. Killing Me Softly, played for the 27th time today somewhere in the world. The first time ever I saw your face, playing in someone's headphones on the subway. The voice that exists outside the body, outside of time, in the strange and lasting realm where true art lives. December 2025. Roberta Flack is 88 years old. She has lived with ALS for almost a decade. It is an extraordinary survival. Most ALS patients do not live that long. His condition is stable in the sense that it is not rapidly deteriorating. But there is no improvement either. He exists in a state of medical suspension. Conscious, present, but physically limited in almost every way. The family maintains routines. Music at certain times. Reading aloud. Scheduled visits from friends. They maintain their dignity. Their agency. As much as possible. The outside world keeps moving. New artists emerge. New genres evolve. The music industry is constantly transforming. But certain things remain. Certain songs. Certain voices. Certain moments in art history that cannot be erased or replaced. A scholar at Berklee College of Music is writing his doctoral dissertation. The topic is Roberta Flack's influence on contemporary vocal performance. He has mapped genealogies. He has traced techniques. He has interviewed dozens of vocalists who cite Roberta as a direct influence. What she discovers is a network, not a line. Roberta didn't create a single style that others copied. She created an approach, a philosophy. Each artist took something different. Alicia Keys took her intimacy. Erykah Badu took her willingness to slow down time. Norah Jones took her interpretive clarity. It's a more subtle form of immortality than sales figures. It's the immortality of method, of approach, of artistic values that are transmitted and transformed. Each generation understands Roberta slightly differently, but they all understand that she represents something essential. Authenticity, mastery, soul. The dissertation will eventually be published. It will be read by a few hundred scholars, but it will contribute to a growing record, to a documented understanding that Roberta Flack was not just successful. She was influential. She was transformative. She was essential. Somewhere in the United States, in a small concert hall, a young pianist sits alone. It's late at night. The place is closed, but she has a key. She's employed there, working at the bar to support herself while pursuing her musical dreams. She sits down at the piano. She begins to play The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. Just the accompaniment. Then she begins to sing. Her voice is different from Roberta's. Harsher, less refined. But there's something there. An understanding. A respect for what the song requires. He's not trying to imitate. He's trying to understand. How do you make something so difficult look so easy? How do you convey emotion without theatrics? How do you serve the song instead of using it as a vehicle to show off skills? These are the questions every generation of artists must ask themselves. The answers aren't in YouTube tutorials. They're in doing, in failing, in trying again, in listening to the masters. And Roberta Flack, though silenced, remains a master. Every recording is a lesson. Every preserved performance is a masterclass. It's inevitable. The call that will eventually come. The announcement everyone fears. It hasn't arrived yet in this story. Because this story ends in the present, in December 2025. And at this moment, Roberta is still here. But that moment will come. It could be months. It could be years. ALS is unpredictable. but it is lethal. Eventually, there will be obituaries, tributes, retrospectives, the news cycle that consumes legends when they become history. There will be well-intentioned articles that summarize his life in paragraphs, that reduce decades of work to lists of successes and awards, that capture the facts but lose the texture, the complexity, the humanity. There will be TV specials, compilations of their music streaming, temporary spikes in plays and downloads. And then, gradually, attention will shift to the next thing. Because that's how culture works. Attention spans are finite. Time is relentless. But something will remain. Something always remains when the art is true. The songs, the recordings, the influences, the students of the students of the students. The line continues even when the originator is gone. What Roberta Flack proved cannot be fully quantified. She proved that a black woman, in an industry dominated by white men, could demand respect. She could refuse to compromise. She could win on her own terms. He proved that 31 was not too late to begin a career in music, that every life experience informed the art, that maturity was active, not passive. He proved that a song could be completely transformed by interpretation, that there is no correct version, only different versions, and that a great performance can eclipse and redefine a song forever. He proved that teaching was no less valuable than performing, that shaping minds was as important as crafting songs, that legacy is built as much on what you give as on what you create. These aren't measurable achievements. There are no statistics for them, but they're what matters. They're what remains when the charts fade, when awards gather dust, when no one remembers what number you reached on Billboard. There's a concept in theoretical physics. Information is never truly destroyed. It's only transformed. It disperses, but it persists in some form throughout the universe. If that's true, then every note Roberta Flack sang still exists somewhere. Every vibration, every frequency, traveling out at the speed of sound, then slowing down, but never completely stopping. It's a romantic notion, probably not scientifically accurate, but there's a metaphorical truth to it. The impact of his music, the ripples he created in the culture, continue to spread. They continue to reach new shores, new listeners, new generations. In 2025, there are children being born who, in 15 years, will discover Killing Me Softly and feel that it was written for them, that it speaks to their exact experience, that it is, in some way, contemporary despite being recorded decades before their birth. This is true immortality, not the absence of death, but a continuous presence, the echo that does not fade, the song that does not end. We return to the hospital room where we began. But it's not 2023. It's now, December 2025. Roberta is here, still here. The lights of Manhattan twinkle outside, the city that watched her rise, the city that preserved her voice in recording studios, the city that remembers her even when she can't remember herself the way she used to. If I could speak, if words could flow as they once did, what would I say? Perhaps something simple. Perhaps thank you. For listening. For caring. For allowing me to be who I was without demanding I be anything else. Or perhaps nothing. Perhaps the work speaks for itself. Perhaps when you have created art that endures, final words are unnecessary. Here's what we know. Roberta Cleopatra Flack was born on February 10, 1937, in Black Mountain, North Carolina. She overcame segregation. She received an education when many like her were denied one. She became a teacher because she believed in the transformative power of music education. She entered the music industry late by her standards, but she brought with her everything she had learned, every lesson taught, every note practiced, every challenge overcome. She recorded songs that defined an era. She won awards that no one had ever won before in the way she did. She broke barriers simply by being excellent, by being undeniable, by being unapologetically herself. He collaborated with giants. He tragically lost some of them. He carried on anyway, because that's what true artists do. They carry on. They create. They contribute, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. He taught when he could. He inspired when he couldn't teach. He proved that a career in art isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. And the dignity with which you run that marathon matters as much as where you finish. And now, facing his final battle, the one that cannot be won, he does so with the same grace that marked his entire life. Without public complaints. Without self-pity. Just existence. Just presence. Just the reality of a human being facing mortality with as much dignity as possible. The voice that gently killed songs is now silenced. But the songs survive. They continue to gently kill. They continue to touch hearts. They continue to prove that true art never dies. Because as long as there's someone who puts on "The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face" and feels something, as long as there's a student somewhere learning from his techniques, as long as there's a young pianist in an empty room trying to understand how he achieved what he achieved, Roberta Flack lives. Not in the biological sense. That's temporary, finite, vulnerable, but in the sense that matters. In art, in influence, in the eternal echo of a life well lived, of work well done, of uncompromising excellence, of enduring beauty. This is the story of Roberta Flack, a story that isn't over yet. Because the best stories never end. They just change shape. They just wait to be rediscovered by the next generation, and the next, and the next. The voice recorded in 1972, preserved in the digital ether, reproduced 2 billion times and counting, will continue to kill softly long after the final silence arrives. Because that's how great artists work. They die, but their work doesn't. Their work simply is. Forever. Or at least as long as there's someone to listen. And there will always be someone listening. Always.